Hi everybody. Okay. I normally say at this point good morning. Today it's more of a good afternoon because last night SpaceX launched the SN15 prototype to 10 kilometers and then successfully landed it, which is, I think, really, really exciting. The most exciting thing that has happened in a good while. I'm going to talk about that today. I'm also quickly going to go out for a short cycle and meet up with my mum in a local town and get some coffee. I haven't been out on the bike for a little while either because the weather's been rubbish. I am going to do a proper sort of cycling blog post when I actually have something, when I've got somewhere more interesting to cycle. Shoe covers. It's warmer outside, but not warm enough to forego the shoe covers. Good to go. Something else I must mention before the end of today's vlog post is that I've got a new bike light for the rear. I've had terrible trouble finding a light for the back that I actually like. And this, yeah, it actually works as a brake light as well as a sort of, it's quite a clever little thing, and hopefully it will last a lot longer than my previous bike lights. Which, because the main, I mean, they worked, but the problem is they would always run out of power after 2 or 3 hours, or maybe 4 hours at the most, and sometimes I go for long cycles. I better get cracking now, otherwise my mum's going to go bonkers because she wants to meet up and have coffee and the day is wearing on. I tell you what, it's nice to be back out on the bike. It's nice to have some appropriate weather for it. Actually, speaking of weather, I wasn't that impressed with the weather yesterday down at Boca Chica, but they did manage to launch it. Rather annoyingly, there were quite a lot of clouds, and for some reason they seem to disrupt the signal, like the video signal, so that cut out a bit. Yeah, so the footage from the SN15 launch wasn't as great as it could have been, although there are some great shots from NASA space flight, Everyday Astronaut, Cosmic Perspective, La Padre, those people. I'd strongly recommend you check those out because they got some pretty good shots. You couldn't really see much once it had gone through the clouds. And because the onboard camera stopped as well around that point, you know, basically we just sat there listening to John Innsbrucker tell us what was going on. But it was very exciting. It's one of those funny things. In the lead up to it, I was fairly confident, going a bit fast, mate. I was fairly confident they'd be able to land one eventually. But then again, who knows? I mean, this stuff is so bleeding edge of what physics will allow. Maybe it just wasn't going to work. However, now they've done it, there's something of a sort of course it'll work about it. Now, obviously, that's not the case, because if it was a foregone conclusion, I can assure you, every rocket manufacturer out there would be doing it. And they're not. None of them are. It's just SpaceX. It blows my mind that they push the boundaries the way they do. And it can all be traced back to the attitude of Elon Musk, I think. I mean, you can see it through Tesla, just as you can through SpaceX. Oh, right. Almost coffee time now. My mum's bike, she's just grabbing a coffee from inside, and I am going to chit chat about SpaceX. So after I'd watched the SN15 land and I knew it had actually happened, they'd launched it and everything, I went down and I wanted to share my enthusiasm with my mum a little bit. So I was all full of enthusiasm, and I was like, look at this, watch it, and she was like, yeah, that's nice, but I don't really get it. Why is it that important? You know? It's that sort of classic argument of, well, there's so much stuff to fix on Earth, maybe we shouldn't, you know, be concentrating on space. It's exactly the same thing as saying, you know, before America was discovered, why go off and explore other parts of the world? There's probably nothing there, it's probably just bare ocean. And even if we do get there and there's some land, why would anyone want to live there? I mean, there's nothing there, right? Well, that's exactly the same as Mars. But the truth is, until you go somewhere, you don't know what's there. That's why it's called exploring. Not to mention the fact that the trickle-down technology development, you see, basically the thing is, when you develop technology, that knowledge it's available for everything, not just for the original purpose for which you came up with the idea. Which, by the way, is one of the reasons why I hate software patents. If you're going to have an actual, like, bit of physical science that's been discovered, you can't patent that, surely. It was there before you discovered it. So, I mean, there was one example which I brought up was an everyday astronaut example, where he was saying how there was, basically when Hubble was first launched, it sort of looked at everything in a fuzzy way. So NASA designed a software algorithm that would sort of sharpen that image up as much as possible until they could actually go out and put a sort of corrective lens in, and they used that same algorithm to improve the diagnostics of breast cancer. Totally unrelated, and yet one development wouldn't exist without the other. Oh, is that my coffee?
Yes, it's rather good.
Oh, thank you, Mum. Yes, huge is the order of the day.
Is it?
I'm just talking about SpaceX and trying to explain to them, as I explained to you, why it is a big thing. I mean, like, genuinely, right? Everything else that's happened in my life is basically irrelevant. In a few hundred years' time, nobody will know, nobody will care. The exception is what SpaceX is doing. Possibly a little bit the whole shift to electric vehicles, although I think people will look back at that as more of a sort of foregone conclusion, which Elon Musk just happened to sort of speed up a little bit, which is probably all Elon Musk would actually say on that subject either. But when it comes to space, I mean, we have been stuck with the same level of space access, the same level of technology for a full-blown 50 years. Ever since we got to the moon, that's basically where advancement stopped. The space shuttle didn't really move us forwards, except as an example of how not to do it. So yeah, this is something that genuinely moves the species forwards, gives us abilities that we didn't have before, changes our very nature in a fundamental way. So how can you not be excited about it? That's my personal thoughts. And on top of that, fixing these things and moving the species forwards is much more likely to solve problems like world hunger and disease on Earth. We've been trying to solve these problems directly for thousands of years, and we've still got a long ways to go. That's why I am super duper excited. I'm so pleased for SpaceX, and I think it's brilliant that they've done this like just a few days after unfortunately NASA had to suspend their contract for the human landing systems Starship with SpaceX. They had to suspend that because they'd had a couple of complaints from Dianetics and the national team. Basically the people that didn't get it were like, that's not fair, we didn't realise cost was so important, and besides, SpaceX haven't landed any Starships yet anyway, it's a total unproven long shot. Ha! In your face, Jeff Bezos. Sorry, I shouldn't sort of single him out, but I think what frustrates me about him is he has all the money in the world, and as far as I can tell has made a tiny amount of progress compared to the progress that SpaceX has made since the beginning of the year. So come on, Jeff, I want to see big things from you. Right, I'm going to finish my coffee now, chat with my mum, who I've only just seen because, you know, we went cycling here together. I wanted to do a bit of a longer loop and so get the old heart rate up, and yeah, time to be sociable. See, I've got a brake light now, Mum. Look.
What?
Look. So I'm going along, and then I stop.
Oh, that's very good.
I know. It's like it's got a little G sensor in it or something. Yeah. 20 quid from Amazon. And hopefully the battery should last for as long as I want to use it for, which is the main problem I had with all the other ones. Is, you know, it would last for half a sportive, and then I'd either have to remember to plug it in, which I'd forget, or it wasn't the one. Right, let's get cracking. Which way are we going? God, just needs to be a little bit warmer, and then let the good times roll. Oh, look, because it's darker in here, it's actually flashing the whole lot, whereas when I'm outside, it just flash one little light. That's partly why this one will last, hopefully, for an entire day's cycling. I do like my gizmos. Right, let's put this camera down for a sec. Oh, yeah, there's just, I don't know, I suppose the thing is, right, I'm an optimist. I'm not saying that, you know, the things that go on in the world aren't important, with the exception of space. Obviously, that's not the case. But I want to see humanity as a species moving forwards. You know, I think that where we are now is a considerable improvement over where we were in the 1500s. There's just so much progress that we've made, but we're not at the end goal. I mean, will we ever be at the end goal? No, of course not. And one of the things that I really do feel moves us forwards technologically a huge amount is space. I think dollar for dollar, what you invest in a space program is one of the most productive ways to spend government cash. It really is. I mean, obviously not if you just waste it like crazy. I think the SLS program is quite honestly more or less a subsidy, a benefit system for the middle class in certain states in America. That's how it seems to me. It doesn't really do anything useful. It doesn't move the needle forwards. It barely gives us any capabilities that we don't already have. In fact, you know, I think you'd probably have a more cost-effective mission if you tried to send people to the moon using Falcon Heavy launches. You know, basically it sounds like a little bit of paperwork and a small amount of development on a transfer stage versus building a whole massive cobbled together rocket where you've had to recertify and retest so many old components from the shuttle program. It's just, oh my God. SLS, not a big fan. Don't feel like it really does anything much useful except keep people employed. So yeah. Whereas this is the difference. You see, Starship really does move us forwards. It has capabilities that SLS doesn't have. For one thing, every time you want to launch an SLS, you have to build an SLS, which is troublesome because eventually you'll run out of old shuttle engines to re-engineer and clean up and dust off, which means you'll have to restart the production for that. Which means you'll have to redevelop stuff because, you know, these are old engines, things move forwards. It costs a bloody fortune. It's ridiculous. So yeah, Starship for the win. Well done, Elon Musk, and thank you for making life interesting. And on that note, I'm going to say goodbye for the day. I hope you've enjoyed today's vlog post. If you have, remember to leave a like and share it and subscribe if you don't already. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter if you don't already. Links are in the descriptions. Also, I want to say a massive thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome, and I will see you all in the next episode of my vlog. Bye!